think a common misconception, which I used to think the same thing, was it was about, eliminating one side of the course. PGA Tour stats kind of show that that's not a thing. It's easy to think that's why they hit a fade, but I think to me it's more about eliminating just the disaster show, which is a hook left. With that in mind, I get that question a lot. Why do these guys hit a fade? Should I be trying to hit a fade? Scotty Scheffler just won the Masters in pretty amazing fashion. And he mostly hits cuts off the tee, hits a lot of his irons, with a fade if he can. Not that he can't work the ball right to left, but you would have seen him hit mostly fades with the driver. And again, someone like DJ is a prime example of someone who also cuts the ball to keep control on it. So I just want to make a quick video about, why do guys do that? Is a fade a more functional shot? Does it help you with accuracy? And then, how can we actually work on that if you are currently a draw player like I am? I'm gonna start with just a typical drive for me, which will shape left to right in a draw. And then from there, I'll work on trying to hit some fades and we'll talk through the potential advantages of that. Okay, so I've hit one straight. I talked a big game instead of my typical shot as a draw, and then I hit basically a straight ball. Okay, so not much of a draw, but that's kind of what my typical shot looks like. It's probably between 10 and, 15 yards of shape left to right. Pretty typical stuff. So path is a little on the in to outside. That's showing a right-handed golfer, which obviously I'm not. So use your imagination for this one. But for me as a left-handed player, a lot of my swings, path is coming quite a bit from the inside. Club travels out, puts a bit of draw spin on it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not like it's a big deal. And if you're watching this and you hit a draw reliably and you're going, why would I change? You're probably not a candidate to switch. If you're hitting lots of fairways with a draw, please, for the love of God, don't stop. But there's a lot of people like me that have a path like this that can get a bit squirrely. I can hit some pushes, I can hit some hooks, and that's the reason why a person might think, hey, why don't I hit some fades instead? So let me move into that shape a bit. Let me try to work on some drills that I can show you guys that will neutralize the flight a bit and start to actually pull the ball, technically speaking, a pull start line with a bit of fade spin on it. Someone like Scotty or Dustin, they are slightly from the inside a lot of the time, but it's less so. And occasionally you will find guys on tour that are, close to zero. You don't have to be zero. You don't have to be, out to in. You don't have to be perfectly 1 degrees, path, something like that. It's not about chasing that. I think for me, it's just about playing the shot that you intend. So I'm not going to focus too much on swing path and, swing angle of attack. I'm just going to try to play the shot and let's see what the numbers do. So I want to play a shot that starts to the right of target a bit and fades back to the left. Let's just see what that's like from a numbers perspective and see if it gives me a little bit more control of the ball flight. It's actually a decent attempt. So you can see the ball started right at target, has a little bit of cut spin to it. I struck it a little bit high in the face, which is why the spin stayed so low. Generally, you'd see a bit more spin on a fade than that, but it's a great result. Now you can see that even though I did fade it, the path is still slightly in to out. So that's something you should consider, and I need to consider, is I don't need to start swinging 4 degrees out to in, nor should you want to, especially with a driver. You can hit a fade by being slightly in to out. And a lot of it is you can also play with your alignment. So I know when I'm trying to hit a fade, I probably did it there. I probably cheated it a bit. I probably opened up my stance just a bit, maybe opened up my shoulder line just a bit, which allowed me to start it right. And the fade came from a little bit of the face angle. So is it a pull fade? Probably not. It's maybe just a very slight kind of straight or push fade even. And so what is a miss there? I didn't do a great job there. I towed it a bit. That's my miss, which you can see is very, very straight, really. Just a little bit right at target. So a lot of that came from strike, and this is where we start to talk about why does someone try to hit fade type shots, or why do they intend to hit a fade? That would probably be a prime example of why I would do it. So I know I struck it so bad that, I struck the dot right off the face. So it was very high on the face and a little bit toe side, so it took the dot off. But I can tell you for certain that path was pretty neutral. The swing felt quite, fade biased, but I struck it way high up in the face and way in the toe. So if I had that same strike with a very in to out and up path, I'm hitting either an enormous block if I didn't square the face, or I'm hitting a huge hook. So when you neutralize it a bit, It stabilizes the face. You tend to have a little bit of a spinnier flight, holds the ball on the straight line a little bit better. Again, I think most of this is not, hey, I'm never going to miss it right for me as a lefty, or if you're right-handed, I'm never going to miss it left because I'm hitting fades. It's not the case. But when you miss one, especially with a bad strike, what you'll see is you'll miss it way less with a hook. It'll be more of a little bit of a pull. And to me, on the golf course, that would probably be in the right rough based on my intended start line. It's just not that bad of a miss, much more manageable. Yeah, really happy with that. Just a little bit of a sliding fade. It's very under control and very, very straight. You're not going to hit my longest drives that way. That is a bit of an extreme example. You know, you've got two ways of doing it. As you saw earlier, I hit a bit of a fade with like 2.5 in to out. That one was more like 1 degree in to out. You know, you don't have to be this neutral, but it certainly allowed me to start the ball just barely right of center and have a little bit of spin axis back to the left. I mean, I love that drive for many reasons. It's not a perfect solution to all my problems. I still need to sequence my swing better. But for me, you can see that thinking fade or trying to play the fade, it's starting to actually really straighten out the average shot, and it's taking away a horrible miss. So what I'm feeling, just to give you an idea, is a lot of the drill that I mentioned before that Larry's worked with me on is my right shoulder, which is my lead shoulder. I'm trying to feel it traveling downwards and behind me. As you can see, that's pulling the club a little bit more out to in. Now, if you're like me and you miss a block and a hook, you're probably traveling up and even, out with that lead shoulder. You're trying to feel the opposite here, down and around with the lead shoulder. That's what's neutralizing the path and producing a little bit more of a fade. That's really all I'm thinking about. As I've mentioned in one other video, another thing you can do is if you don't have a launch monitor to watch your path and stuff, I would put an alignment rod on your target line and try to start balls on either side of it. So if you're trying to hit the fade for me, I'm trying to start it right. For you guys, if you're a right-handed golfer, you have the rod here, you try to start some balls left of target. It's just a good little kind of visual aid to help you get start line. To me, if you get the start line for a right-handed player, if you get the start line left, chances are you're going to put a little bit of a fade on it because you've moved your path slightly more neutral. If you're starting it way out to the right for a right-handed golfer, chances are you're going to have to hit that swoopy draw. Just something to think about. So I'm going to think about starting the ball right, dropping the shoulder a little bit low and right through impact, and that's really all I've got in my head. Again, the miss seems to be just like I'll pull one, which I don't hate. To me, that's probably in the right rough at worst. Again, that's a really good result. A little bit in the heel, which is why it's kind of low. Not going to be my longest drives, but a fairway finding drive that gets out there around 300 yards is an awfully useful shot to have. You can kind of see that. Again, it's not going to be the fastest ball speed wise, and that's partially just because for me it requires a lot more thought to hit a fade. So part of that is I don't swing quite as fast when I'm trying to think about it, but super neutral and not as up with the path and angle of attack. And a 170 ball speed, 10 launched and 2,000 spin is a good ball flight. I mean, if I click this here, it shows you every ball. They're very straight flying balls. None of those are particularly far offline. I think the most offline was like under 15 yards. So probably in most fairways, if not just on the edge of the rough. And that's a bit of a smaller dispersion circle than I'm used to seeing. You guys are pretty familiar with my numbers. I mean, usually when I do a set of drives, that circle is a bit bigger and usually is more on the right. So my average miss here is a lot less right than normal. Nothing crazy revolutionary with the test, but I just kind of wanted to explore the idea because I do get a lot of messages, and a lot of my friends, are watching the Masters, and they say stuff like, Scotty hits a lot of fades off the tee. Is that something I should work on? Do you recommend that? I'm conflicted about it. Sometimes I think, well, a lot of people play golf and they're over the top as it is. Do I really want to tell someone to hit a fade? So it's complicated, the question. I would say it's not a blanket yes. If you're more of an advanced player and if anything you struggle with being, too draw biased, too hook biased, sure, I think it's a good path to follow. You should bring your dispersion in. If you're someone whose sequencing is a little bit more, novice, if you're not, you're not able to produce a draw ever, maybe don't go out and encourage yourself to hit fades because you're probably going to ingrain some bad habits. But from a ball flight perspective, from a consistency perspective, I can see why guys do it. And I can see it being something that I might want to explore as a go-to shot off the tee. I think it's totally feasible that trying to play a fade off the tee is a little bit more accurate than trying to play a draw, but it's not for everyone. So, take the test for what it's worth. Let me know what you guys think. What shape do you hit off the tee? Let me know in the comments. Are you a draw guy? Are you a fade guy? And if so, would you rather see the opposite? Always curious to hear what people, it's always, grass is always greener kind of thing. I hit a draw, but I'd like to hit a fade. A lot of guys hit a fade, they love to hit a draw. So kind of the funny part of golf is it does seem like no matter what shot you hit, you want to hit somebody else's shot. But let me know what you guys thought, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.